The cloner function found in the built-ins or functions tab and within our tools folder helps us create copies or clones of primitive containers. So the way this works is that we're going to go grab a primitive here and we're going to use a cone. I'm also going to throw a material on it so that we can see it a bit better. I'm going to go back into my built-ins, into my functions tab and the tools folder and highlight the cloner. Now the way the cloner works is that we don't drop it right on the container itself. The container needs to be a sub-container of a group. So what I'm going to do is just group my cube here so that it's a sub-container, and I'm going to drop the cloner function onto the topmost group. Now you can see on my particular machine that I'm using for this exercise that we don't have an icon for the cloner. It's a little gift wrapped icon. Just because you don't have an icon doesn't mean the function will not work. So I'm going to click on my cloner icon and go into the cloner editor. First thing that we have here is clones count. It's set to 3000 by default. I'm going to decrease this down to about 100. And the next thing we have are clone rows and clone columns. So these need to be a multiple of the clones count. So each one of these I'm going to put 10 clone rows and 10 clone columns. Now we have a shape which is set to matrix by default, and I'm going to leave it on matrix for now. Next step will be to increase my delta X, and as I start to increase this, you can see that it creates a space in between each of these cubes, and I can do the same for delta Y. So I'm going to increase the space on delta Y so that we have spaces in between each cube. I'm just going to scale this down a little bit so that we can see what is really going on. And I'm going to go back into my cloner. Now we also have an option for delta Z, so as I increase or decrease delta Z, it will offset each container in the Z space. When it's set to matrix, we have the option for which plane we want it to be on. So by default, it's set to XY. You can also change it to XZ or YZ. Now a matrix is not the only shape. We also have an option for an ellipse. So when I change this to ellipse, it spreads it out in a linear row here. Again, we can use the delta X to spread it out further if we want. Once it's set to ellipse, we can come down to this minimum angle and max angle and adjust these settings. So I want to adjust this min angle here. And as I do that, it spreads these cones out. Now once it's spread out, we can also use the R1 and the R2 setting to spread these further out. We also have an option under shape for sphere. So let's reposition this, and when I change it to sphere, you can see that it changes these cubes into a sphere. So once it is set to sphere, we have an option for radius. I can increase the radius of this sphere. So let's bring it up a little bit. We also have an option for min azimuth. As I increase this, you can see how it kind of cuts this sphere in half. We also have a max azimuth set to 360 by default. If we bring this down, it's going to cut this sphere in half going the other way. So we can reset these. There's also a min pitch and a max pitch. As I increase the min, you can see how it kind of cuts the sphere in half from a vertical standpoint. There's also a max pitch, so we can use this to adjust the pitch the other way as well. Now we have options underneath: rename subtrees, remove excess containers. These are off by default. You can turn these on, because what really happens is if we come over here into our scene tree and if we close up the main group container and then open it again, you can see once it does open, it creates the number of containers that we have in our clone count. So right now we have 100 in our clone count. If I scroll down here through my scene tree, you can see that there are 100 containers, and what it actually did is rename each cube and container automatically.